living in a world where people care for one another, and the importance of feeling connected that are founded in the earliest years of our lives.
In a shocking turn that's shaken royal circles, reports suggest Queen Camilla made a bold and unexpected decision, allegedly banning young Princess Charlotte from attending the grand royal banquet. What was meant to be a night of unity quickly turned into quiet tension behind palace walls. But just when whispers filled the corridors, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, arrived, radiant, composed, and ready to reclaim the spotlight. Her entrance didn't just change the mood, it changed the story. So, what really happened that night? Let's uncover the details. The banquet that drew the line. It began like every royal occasion, precise, elegant, and steeped in centuries of quiet control. Inside Kensington's marble halls, preparations were unfolding for what promised to be one of the grandest banquets of the year. Gowns were being pressed, jewels polished, and guest lists reviewed with military precision. Yet amid the glitter and order, one discovery would shatter the illusion of harmony. As Catherine, the Princess of Wales, glanced over the final list of attendees, her heart stilled. One name was missing, her daughter, Princess Charlotte. It wasn't an oversight, it was deliberate. Every detail in a royal event is reviewed dozens of times, and for Charlotte's name to vanish meant only one thing: someone had ordered it removed. When the official aide entered the room, his words were crisp and emotionless, as if rehearsed for impact. By Her Majesty's direction, Princess Charlotte is not to attend. The phrase was wrapped in polished formality, yet it carried a chill, sharper than any reprimand. Behind those carefully chosen words lay a message, one that cut deeper than protocol ever could. Catherine's expression didn't falter. She'd been trained to conceal emotion behind perfect composure. But inside, she felt a cold weight settle. This wasn't about a child being absent from a dinner. It was about power, lineage, and quiet defiance. The decision to exclude Charlotte wasn't random. It was symbolic. A mother's instinct told her that something far more calculated was at play. Servants felt it too. The corridors buzzed with whispers that traveled faster than any royal announcement. Aides exchanged guarded glances, and the air seemed charged with unspoken tension. It wasn't the first time Queen Camilla and Catherine's relationship had been described as complicated, but this moment crystallized it. Whatever differences existed behind the palace's velvet curtains had now found their stage, the royal banquet. Still, Catherine remained silent. There were no outbursts, no visible cracks in her calm. Her restraint spoke volumes. For years, she had perfected the art of quiet strength, understanding that in the world of crowns and courtiers, silence could be a sharper weapon than speech. She realized this was not simply a breach of etiquette, it was a statement. By excluding Charlotte, Camilla hadn't just drawn attention to rank or age, she had drawn a line in the sand. It was a challenge wrapped in diplomacy, a way of saying, "This is my court now." And though no one would dare voice it aloud, everyone knew the tension between the two women had just stepped into new territory. That evening, as the palace shimmered with crystal chandeliers and golden cutlery, Catherine made a deliberate choice. She would not react with anger, words, or open confrontation. Instead, she would let her presence do the talking. Every measured step, every graceful gesture, and every quiet glance carried a message far more powerful than any decree. In a room full of whispers and expectations, her calm strength would become the loudest statement of all. Because in that moment, Catherine understood something vital. The crown may dictate attendance, but influence, real influence, is earned, not given. And on that night, she intended to show exactly where it still rested. Catherine noticed that Princess Charlotte's name was missing from the banquet invitations, deliberately excluded by Queen Camilla. But how would she respond to such a bold slight? Would she confront the Queen or quietly defy the order? Now, let's uncover how Catherine transformed this shocking royal snub into a masterful, silent victory. The Emerald Rebellion. By dawn, the faint hum of gossip had erupted into a storm that rattled the palace's golden halls. What began as whispers among the staff had grown into a thunderous truth no one dared to name aloud. Princess Charlotte had been deliberately excluded from the royal banquet. The silence that followed wasn't ignorance. It was fear. Servants avoided eye contact, advisors chose their words carefully, and even seasoned aides tiptoed through their duties as though the air itself might shatter. Yet through it all, Catherine remained calm, a portrait of composure framed in poise and grace. She moved through charity events with effortless grace, bending gently to chat with children and fulfilling every royal duty as if the swirling controversy around her didn't exist. Yet beneath that serene exterior, a focused purpose thrummed quietly, deliberate, precise, and sharper than any spoken word. Her calm was no mere composure. It was a carefully honed strategy, a subtle but powerful statement that presence, poise, and restraint could speak louder than any confrontation. As the day of the banquet drew near, anticipation thickened like the grey London sky above Kensington Palace. The city waited, the press waited, and so did the courtiers, unsure of whether Catherine would attend or make her absence the loudest statement of all. Even her own staff didn't know her decision. Hours crept by in tense silence until, just before dusk, the sound of the dressing room door opening broke the stillness. And there she was, her decision shimmering before them in emerald silk. The gown caught the light like a living thing, each movement turning fabric into fire. But this was no ordinary choice. Catherine had worn that same gown years before at a global women's summit, a moment where she'd spoken about dignity, strength, and quiet resilience. To wear it again now, on this particular night, was no accident. It was a message, a reminder, a silent declaration that she understood the power of symbols far better than those who sought to control her. As her attendants moved efficiently around her, fixing pearls and smoothing fabric, a small voice interrupted the stillness. Princess Charlotte stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with innocent worry. "Mummy, will you say something?" she asked softly. Catherine looked into the mirror, her reflection regal and calm, and answered with a gentle smile, "I don't have to." It was a simple reply, but it carried the weight of centuries. The art of royal defiance disguised as grace. Moments later, Catherine's motorcade glided through the rain-slicked streets of London, a procession framed by the relentless strobe of camera flashes and the quiet hum of whispered speculation. Each turn of the wheel seemed to carry the weight of expectation. When the car finally arrived at Buckingham Palace, the crowd collectively held its breath. As the door swung open, the emerald gown emerged, luminous, commanding, and deliberate, catching every gleam of light. In that instant, it was more than fabric. It was a statement, bold, radiant, and unyielding, heralding a presence impossible to ignore. Inside, the grand ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polite laughter, but the atmosphere was taut, charged with something unspoken. As Catherine entered, every conversation faltered, every eye turned. She smiled, nodded, and carried herself with effortless authority. Despite her daughter's shocking snub, Catherine still attended the royal banquet, leaving everyone questioning her intentions. But did she have a message for the one who excluded Princess Charlotte? And if so, would it be spoken aloud or delivered in silence, carrying more weight than any words ever could? Let's find out. The night the crown trembled. Inside Buckingham Palace, the grand banquet unfolded like a scene from a royal fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung high above, scattering light across the polished marble floors. Silver cutlery sparkled, violins played softly, and conversations rippled through the room with the rhythm of old tradition. Every word, every gesture was measured, the perfect dance of royal etiquette. At the head of the long table, Queen Camilla sat composed and commanding, her posture flawless, her smile perfectly rehearsed. To all appearances, she reigned supreme. To her, the evening represented victory, control over perception, protocol, and power. She believed she had silenced the quiet competition that had lingered in the shadows for years, but her confidence was about to fracture. Then came the moment that would change everything. The great double doors opened and the room fell into silence. Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped inside. Her arrival was unannounced, but her presence was electric. The emerald gown she wore glimmered under the chandelier's golden light, catching every gaze and holding it. Her posture was serene, her movements graceful, not hurried, not defiant, just quietly commanding. In that instant, the unspoken hierarchy of the evening shifted. The Queen might have held the throne, but Catherine held the room. Camilla's practiced smile faltered for the briefest second. She recovered quickly, lifting her glass and feigning ease, but the tremor in her composure was noticed by more than a few. This was not the outcome she had envisioned. The decision to exclude Princess Charlotte had been meant to send a message, a reminder of rank and authority. But now, as Catherine glided across the ballroom with effortless grace, it was clear who truly embodied the spirit of the crown. Every eye followed Catherine as she took her seat, far from the head table where Camilla presided. Yet, somehow, her distance only magnified her presence. Around her, conversation grew warm and lively. Laughter echoed from her corner of the room, while Camilla's table sat stiff, uneasy. The balance of admiration had quietly tipped. Then came the evening's toast. A senior royal, his tone rich with formality, raised his glass. To the next generation of the crown, may they carry its legacy with grace. And at once, every head turned toward Catherine. She didn't rise. She didn't speak. She simply offered a calm, knowing smile, a gesture that said everything words could not. That single look, poised and unshaken, became the defining moment of the night. It was quiet power at its purest form. Outside, the press had already begun to sense the shift. Photographers captured Catherine's radiant entrance, while whispers from palace insiders trickled out. Within hours, headlines flooded the newsstands. A silent message from the future queen. Tension at the palace banquet. Princess of Wales commands the room. What had begun as a carefully controlled royal dinner had turned into a global spectacle. Viewers around the world replayed the footage, analyzed the photos, and drew their conclusions. And nearly all of them favored Catherine. By morning, public sympathy had decisively swung her way. The Queen's attempt to assert dominance had unraveled, replaced by the image of a woman who needed no words to prove her strength. Catherine didn't merely attend a banquet. She claimed a silent victory, one that resonated far beyond the palace walls and captured the world's attention. But will she voice her grievances, or let her triumph speak for itself in silence? Now let's explore. When grace outshone the crown, the power of grace, Catherine's silent revolution. By sunrise, the palace had turned into a quiet storm. Behind its polished doors and curtained windows, aides hurried from room to room, clutching papers and whispering explanations that convinced no one. Every headline, every morning broadcast, carried the same question. Why had Princess Charlotte been excluded from the royal banquet? Official statements spoke of protocol, limited capacity, and optical balance. But the nation wasn't buying it. People had seen Catherine, her grace, her silence, her poise, and they knew there was more behind the story. Without raising her voice or calling attention to herself, the Princess of Wales had become the center of the royal narrative. Not through rebellion or defiance, but through quiet dignity that no decree could suppress. Within the palace, tension simmered. Queen Camilla's confidence, once unshakable, began to splinter under the weight of public perception. Her closest advisors, sensing the shift, softened their loyalties, drawn toward the calm authority that Catherine carried so effortlessly. It became painfully clear. While Camilla sought her power through titles and formalities, Catherine had earned hers through trust, compassion, and the natural grace that resonated with the people. The real turning point came days later, during a private meeting in one of Buckingham's smaller drawing rooms. No cameras, no courtiers, just two women divided by power and principle. Camilla, guarded yet determined, spoke of order, of how tradition must be protected at all costs. Her words were polished, practiced, the language of control. Catherine listened, patient and still, before finally answering with a sentence that froze the air between them. "Protocol," she said softly, "has never prevented kindness. She's your granddaughter." The words were gentle, yet they struck with the force of truth, an undeniable reminder that the crown's strength had always rested not in authority, but in empathy. For a moment, even Camilla had no response. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with something deeper than confrontation. The realization that Catherine's influence came not from power, but from principle. Days later, Catherine reappeared in public. There were no announcements, no dramatic gestures, no statements from the palace. Instead, she arrived at a youth awards ceremony, radiant, poised, and holding the hand of Princess Charlotte. Cameras flashed, the crowd cheered, and in that simple, powerful image, the entire story turned on its head. Catherine didn't need to address the controversy. She didn't need to defend or explain. Her presence with Charlotte said everything about motherhood, compassion, and quiet resilience. The image of the two, walking hand in hand across the stage, became the front page of every newspaper the next morning. It wasn't just a photograph. It was a message, a declaration of grace wrapped in simplicity. By nightfall, even the palace could feel it. The shift in sentiment, the unspoken verdict of the public. The nation had already chosen its symbol of strength, and it wasn't found in titles or protocol. It was found in Catherine's calm defiance, in the child beside her, and in the quiet dignity that had turned silence into power. That night, beneath the ancient weight of the crown, it felt as if the monarchy itself had chosen its future. And it had chosen Catherine. Catherine made it unmistakably clear that Princess Charlotte deserves to be treated as the family member she truly is. But how do William and Catherine's parenting values protect their children from exclusion? And does Camilla's action directly challenge that philosophy? Let's uncover the details. The heart of royal upbringing. At the core of Prince William and Catherine's parenting philosophy lies a truth both simple and profound. Family always comes first. Even under the constant glare of public scrutiny with endless engagements, ceremonies, and royal obligations shaping their days, the couple remains steadfast in creating a warm, stable, and loving environment for their children. Amid the rules, protocols, and pageantry of palace life, they carve out moments where their children can simply be themselves, laughing, playing, exploring, and learning the joys of childhood. In doing so, William and Catherine ensure that love and connection anchor their children, even amidst the pressures of royalty. Family vacations, for example, are far more than a brief escape from palace life, or a chance to evade the press. These trips are intentional, carefully curated moments for bonding, storytelling, and creating memories that will linger long after the pomp and circumstance fade. They are sacred pockets of normalcy, where laughter is unhurried, curiosity is encouraged, and the pressures of royal expectation are temporarily set aside. Likewise, game nights are treated as essential rituals, opportunities for playful competition, teamwork, and joy. In these moments, siblings learn the value of patience, cooperation, and shared fun, lessons that will subtly shape their character for years to come. Beyond scheduled outings and vacations, William and Catherine cherish the power of everyday family rituals, understanding that true bonds are built in the small, quiet moments. Gardening together is more than planting seeds. It teaches patience, care, and the reward of nurturing life until it blooms. Cooking simple meals becomes a shared adventure, sparking creativity, instilling responsibility, and celebrating the joy of accomplishing something together. These seemingly ordinary acts are anything but ordinary. They are deliberate lessons in unity, empathy, and cooperation. Through these hands-on, heartfelt experiences, the children learn that love, respect, and collaboration are cultivated through presence, attention, and shared effort, not simply inherited titles or expectations. This approach carries a deeper, vital purpose: building resilience. Growing up surrounded by love, guidance, and unwavering support, the children develop the confidence and inner security needed to handle the extraordinary pressures of royal life. They come to understand that behind every polished public appearance, every carefully staged photo, and every ceremonial smile lies a home that offers constant care and encouragement. This solid foundation teaches them to meet scrutiny, high expectations, and the heavy weight of legacy with composure, emotional stability, and self-assurance. In essence, they learn that true strength is nurtured in the warmth and safety of family. Ultimately, William and Catherine's parenting approach delivers a quiet, yet profound message. Being royal does not mean sacrificing normalcy, intimacy, or heartfelt connection. Through shared experiences, thoughtful engagement, and deliberate acts of care, they teach their children that family is far more than names, titles, or ceremonies. It is the bedrock of character, the source of resilience, and the anchor for joy and security. Balancing tradition with modernity, duty with freedom, and responsibility with warmth. William and Catherine raised their children to be confident, compassionate future royals, valuing love and family above all. With Catherine defending this philosophy against Camilla's actions, what does it mean for the monarchy's future? Now let's explore how Catherine quietly reshaped power without saying a single word. The Crown's quiet revolution. By the time the dust settled, there was no royal statement, no dramatic apology, and no public confrontation. Yet, the monarchy had changed, quietly, irreversibly, and with a grace that defied every rule of royal conduct. Catherine had not shouted, demanded, or rebelled. She had simply been calm, composed, and unshakably dignified. In doing so, she achieved something few women in royal history ever had. She shifted power not through force, but through presence. Her silence became her language, her grace, her armor, and her restraint her greatest weapon. What began as a scandal over a child's exclusion had evolved into something far more symbolic, a portrait of how empathy and quiet strength could triumph over pride and protocol. Catherine had shown the world that dignity does not require a crown, and influence does not need a throne. Across Britain, people saw her as more than a princess. She had become a reflection of what they longed for in the monarchy: humility, humanity, and heart. Even those within the palace, once loyal to the hierarchy, began to sense the shift. The Queen's aides whispered of Catherine's growing influence. Her presence drew warmth where Camilla's authority demanded respect. The contrast was undeniable. Camilla, who had long stood as the symbol of royal order and control, now found herself overshadowed by something she couldn't command: admiration. Her power was official. Catherine's was emotional. One ruled by decree, the other by devotion. And slowly, even Camilla began to tread carefully, aware that public sentiment no longer favored the old ways of ruling by fear or formality. Catherine didn't seize control. She embodied it. Through her patience, she reminded the world that true leadership doesn't come from the loudest voice in the room, but from the one who listens, feels, and acts with quiet purpose. Her approach wasn't rebellion. It was evolution, a modern form of monarchy that placed compassion above command and grace above grandeur. Around the world, her image began to transcend royal tradition. News outlets praised her as the future of the crown. Social media buzzed with admiration for her calm poise, and commentators noted how she had turned what could have been a humiliation into a moment of empowerment. Catherine's silence had spoken volumes, and the world had heard every word. Even inside Buckingham's gilded halls, the atmosphere had changed. Courtiers, diplomats, and staff felt the difference. The warmth she brought, the ease she inspired, the quiet confidence that made people want to follow her rather than fear her. Where tension once lingered, now there was respect. Where uncertainty festered, there was hope. No crown had changed hands, no title challenged. Yet the palace and the world felt a power shift. A new reign had quietly emerged, one that didn't rely on authority or decrees, but on unwavering character and presence. Catherine showed that while jewels sparkle and titles impress, true influence comes from integrity, grace, and the quiet strength to command respect without uttering a word. Without fanfare or grand announcements, a new chapter quietly unfolded in the monarchy, a reign defined not by titles or commands, but by silent strength, subtle influence, and the undeniable power of grace guiding every move and decision. In the end, Catherine of Wales emerged not merely as a princess of her era, but as a guiding force of integrity and grace, a quiet yet undeniable queen shaping the conscience and heart of her time. So, what do you think about Catherine's actions in defending her daughter against Camilla? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.